Hi guys, this is Pete and this is my United point of view. Today we're going to do our match preview for Manchester United's upcoming game versus Arsenal. Before we get into it, we'll just have a quick word from our sponsors. Today's video is sponsored by the guys over at Ball Tactics. Check out their website for match previews and reviews with some tongue-in-cheek humour and a great insight into the game. Check out their match preview for the Arsenal game now, guys. Some really good stuff. Check it out. The link will be in the video description. Also, you can find them on Twitter at @bald_tactics. Check them out, putting out some really good stuff. Before we get into it as well, I want to introduce you to our new channel mascot, Patch. He was a birthday present for my girlfriend the other day, but you know, he can be our United's good luck charm for the rest of the season. Say hello. Hello. Right, go and get back to bed. Alright, so in today's match preview, we're going to go into my thoughts on the game, my predicted starting 11, and then thoughts on some of you guys over on Twitter, whether you agree with that starting 11 and who you'd start instead and stuff. So, my thoughts on the game. Obviously, massive game tomorrow. A game that United need to win. You know, to keep any chance of this title race alive, but really to cement our push for top 4. Like Newcastle drew today, which means that we are now on level points, but with a game in hand. So if we can win this game, it will just cement our place in third that little bit more. So obviously the big worry tomorrow is no Casemiro. Makes it a bit of a difficult one, obviously, with who we're going to play in that holding midfield role instead. Now, I'll go into what I've gone in, like what I think into in my starting 11. But a lot of people have suggested moving Martinez into DM, putting Shaw into the middle, Malacia to the left of the defence, which is an idea. We'll have to see how Ten Hag goes with it. I think the most likely outcome is going to be McTominay starts next to Eriksen. A lot of people have also said play Fred and Eriksen. Now, I have a genuine concern on playing Fred and Eriksen because I don't think either of them are a natural holder. Obviously, Fred's got a lot of energy and tenacity, but I don't think he can be that standalone sitting midfielder. So I don't think that's going to happen tomorrow. I think you might see a midfield of Fred and McTominay, or you'll see McTominay or Eriksen. I don't see it being Fred and Eriksen. Other people have said we could do Fred, McTominay, Eriksen as the 10 and Fernandes out on the right. But we'll go into that more into the comments and stuff that I got. But it'll be interesting to see which way Ten Hag goes with it. Now, obviously as well, I think the game's going to be decided on whether we can take our chances. Obviously, no Martial, so either up front we're going to see Weghorst or Rashford. Now, I've obviously put my starting 11 on what I think the squad will be, but it might be a possibility that we play Rashford and hope, for the quick counters, kind of a way that we got some success against them when we beat them at home. So we'll have to see there. And it'll be interesting to see who we play on the wings if Rashford does go through the middle. So obviously, yeah, there's a lot for Erik Ten Hag to decide on how we're going to play. I can see us playing similar to City in the way that I think we're not going to have as much as possession as we normally do. I think we will look to stay solid, compact, and beat them on the counter. Now, if we can be as effective with our chances as we were versus City, we have a good chance of winning. Obviously, we need to win to keep comfortable in the top 4. So hopefully we can do that. So, just trying to think whether there's anything else I can think of that's important in the game. I think the fullbacks will be vital. Like if Shaw plays out on the left and Wan-Bissaka on the right, most probably. I think it's going to be vital to see how that they push forward, they help with the press when they can, but obviously do their defensive work diligently, because obviously with players like Martinelli, possibly Trossard, Saka, they have players that can really affect the game. Obviously, I'm not sure whether they're going to start Nketiah tomorrow. If they do, I feel confident that a defensive, possibly Martinez and Varane, or Shaw and Varane, will be able to deal with his threat. Like, he's a player that I don't think is good enough to be starting for Arsenal right now. I think he's a player with potential, but I think they obviously miss Gabriel Jesus in that position. So hopefully, we can keep him quiet. So now, guys, we're going to go into my predicted starting 11. For me, in goal, David De Gea. I don't think there's any choice of it being any of the other keepers. Then at right back, I have gone for Aaron Wan-Bissaka. I think he's done a superb job lately. Even if Dalot was fit, I wouldn't start Dalot in this game. I'd go for Wan-Bissaka. I think we're going to be under the caution. I think his defensive work will be vitally important, and obviously his improvement at going forward and improvement with the ball at his feet, like we've seen in the game against Crystal Palace and City, will be a massive help to us. So I'd go for Wan-Bissaka. For me, right centre-back would be Raphael Varane. Obviously, I think he has to start every game he's fit. His leadership qualities, his calmness, he's a Rolls Royce in that defence. He pulls the midfield around. He seems like a real leader in that back line. So he starts for me. And then at left centre-back, I've gone for Martinez. I think, he actually did a decent job against Crystal Palace. Obviously, he got the bump to his head, had the bandage on all game, but I think he did do a good job against Crystal Palace. And for me, he starts, he's good with the ball at his feet. He's really tenacious in a game like this. I think he'll help out a lot our left back with their threat of Saka on that right side. I think as well, his use of the ball, his calmness passing forward will be vital for us. So that's why Martinez starts there for me. Then moving to left back, for me, has to be Luke Shaw. I think, obviously, that he's been superb, whichever position he's played this season. But I think he's got to start there, push there. Maybe, if he can push forward and push Saka into defending more than, coming the other way, it's a way to stop at one of Arsenal's biggest threats. If he can bomb forward and whoever plays on the left-hand side really push Arsenal back on that side. And I do fancy Shaw and Rashford, who's going to be in my left midfield position, left winger position, is to push Ben White really far back. He's played well for Arsenal at right back this year, but I still think he's not a natural right back, and it's a position that we can exploit with Rashford's pace and Shaw's underlapping and overlapping. So hopefully, we can nullify them down that side. Now, moving into the holding midfield role, I've gone for McTominay. Obviously, not having Casemiro there is a big blow, but for me, McTominay's our only other kind of natural holder. I know he's not the best defensive midfielder in the world, but he did play against Arsenal in the last game and he actually put in a decent performance. I'm hoping we'll get one of his better performances. He normally has 2 or 3 good performances in the season. They're normally against Leeds, but hopefully he can do it against Arsenal again. The reason I've put him in there, because for me he's our most natural holder. I think if you put Fred in there instead, you don't have that person that's going to be really strict and hold the position. I know that McTominay sometimes can be a bit suspect, but I don't think Fred can do that job. Fred's obviously much better with a holder next to him, so he can, get on the press and really harry players. I do respect people's opinion that think Fred can start there next to Eriksen. I just don't see it. Now, in the slightly more advanced midfield role, I've gone for Eriksen. I think his guile and use of the ball will be key to setting up counter-attacks and, hopefully getting some semblance of control in that midfield. So that's why I've gone for Eriksen. Then moving into the 10 role, I've gone with Fernandes. Obviously, some people are saying about playing him on the right, but I think we lose a lot of his qualities when he plays there. if we're gonna play on the counter, which I suspect, I think him being there is vital, as he can see a pass and he can move the ball quickly. So that's why I've gone for Fernandes as number 10. Then moving to the right hand side, I've gone for Antony. I know he's not had the best game in the last couple of games, but I think he's a bit of a big game player, and I think in this game he'll show up. And I've actually pinned him to be my first goal scorer in my predictions. I think that he'll pop up with a goal tomorrow. Obviously, if Zinchenko plays out there, he's a decent left back. He's a decent left back, but I think Antony, could have the beating of him. Even if they play Tierney, I still see Antony possibly, being able to cut inside and score a cheeky goal. So that's why I've gone for him there. And then moving to the left-hand side, I've gone with Marcus Rashford. I obviously didn't have the best game against Crystal Palace. Was a little bit too selfish and greedy for me. He looked like he was just trying to extend this goal-scoring record rather than thinking about the team, making the right passes. He kept on running down blind alleys and doing silly things. And I hope Ten Hag's kind of spoke to him and he'll cut that out. But he starts on the left for me. And then up top, I've gone for my main man, Big Wout Weghorst, obviously head of Weghorst FC. I fancy him to have a good game. I fancy him to score a goal tomorrow. I really like Weghorst as a player. I think the more we play with him, the more we'll be able to use how he holds up the ball, and obviously pinpoint a few more crosses into the box to get his head on, because he's a very big lad. And I think he starts tomorrow, especially with no Martial, obviously in the squad. So yeah, that's my starting 11, guys. So now we're going to jump on to some of the comments I got on the tweet that I put out there with my starting 11 on Twitter. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 comments on this. So I really appreciate that, guys. Obviously, the more comments I get, the more content it gives me. So I really appreciate that. Cheers, guys. So the first tweet was from @GavinThorpe5, and he said, "I think we'll see Fred in for Antony or Weghorst." Like, obviously, if that happens, I can see Fred going in next to McTominay, moving Eriksen up, Fernandes out onto the right. Now, I don't particularly have a problem with that. I just think if, obviously, you bring him in for Antony, then it's who plays where across the line. I think, obviously, if you and Rashford, I just don't know. Obviously, instead of if he comes in instead of Weghorst, then obviously you can put Rashford in the middle, keep Antony on the right, maybe play Fernandes left. I don't know whether he can do that, so we'll have to see. Then the next tweet was from @Andrew1Laug, and he said, "I think it will be Fred and McTominay with Eriksen at 10 and Bruno on the right, Antony on the bench." That, like I just said, that's kind of what a lot of people's thoughts are, and we'll have to see. If Fred comes in and plays next to McTominay, I don't really have a problem with Eriksen at 10. I just think we won't control the midfield with Fred and McTominay. Obviously, they have both slightly improved under Ten Hag, but it just scares me with the performances last season. It was all this sideways and backwards passing, and we can't be doing that against Arsenal. Then the next tweet we got was from @the_MUFC Drake, and he said, "I think Fred over McT, just because of his tenacity and what he did to De Bruyne in the derby. Need someone to do the same to Odegaard." Now, like I said, if Fred starts, I think it'll be next to McTominay, because I don't think that Fred can do that holding role. I don't think him and Eriksen are disciplined enough to just sit. So that's why I really think McTominay starts, but obviously I respectfully disagree with some of you guys. Then the next tweet was from @ShwanSharif3, and he said, Fred for McTominay for me. Again, obviously if Fred comes in and Eriksen and him can stay disciplined, I have no problem with it. I just worry about that. Then the next tweet is from @Enoch316344744, and he said, come Sunday, United has to be more strict and disciplined, more than how they played versus Man City. Otherwise, they will lose heavily. Like Crystal Palace players, we need to be focused and play as a team. Midweek, we saw lapses and selfishness that Erik ten Hag needs to sort, as well as Weghorst is not fed. Now, I do agree that we saw a lot of selfishness, especially from Rashford, and lapses in concentration. Pardon. I actually think that we got a bit too big for our boots, with obviously a lot of people saying that we're in a title race. I think the players maybe got a bit carried away and didn't respect Crystal Palace as much as they should. And I don't think we'll make that mistake against Arsenal. I really don't. And I think the more we play with Weghorst up front, the more we'll get fed. I think the more we get used to the runs that he makes and the way that he plays, I think he'll fit into the team well. So then the next tweet is from @MentallyStone7, and he said, without Casemiro it's over, and Fred will definitely start. It was on two separate tweets that. I do agree, without Casemiro we're going to struggle, but I think Ten Hag can mastermind something. You know, the guy's stood up to most challenges he's had this season. Obviously we've had a few disappointing results like the Crystal Palace result the other day and a few others, but on the majority we've been solid and played well, and I think Ten Hag's taken us in the right direction, and I've got full confidence he can mastermind something for tomorrow's game. Then the next tweet was from NS United 18, and he said, David De Gea, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Varane, Martinez, Shaw, Fred, McTominay, Bruno, Eriksen, Rashford, Martial if fit, or Wout. Now, obviously, we know that Martial is not going to be in the squad tomorrow. So, and then he said, 100% midfield control team is a must. This is the team which will start. Now, if that team does start, I won't have a problem with it. Like I said, I just worry about that Fred McTominay pivot because of the way they played last season. But if Ten Hag thinks that's the team we need to go for, I'll back him 100%. And then the next tweet that I got was from Damili 0503, and he said, Weghorst and Anthony, and like a kind of angry thirsty face. I don't think he thinks they're going to start, but obviously I didn't get loads of context in the tweet, so I'm only kind of trying to figure out what he said. And then the last tweet that I got here was from @Vinith7, and he said, I think Fred is more suited to this game than Eriksen, but I don't want to see McFred, so I'd keep Eriksen and start Fred instead of Weghorst, and have Anthony and Rashford up top with Bruno. If Martial is fit, I'd start him for Anthony though. So yeah, obviously a lot of people not confident with McTominay playing. I just think he'll play because he's our only other established holding midfielder. Obviously you could bring Martinez up into holding midfield, put Shaw across, Malacia at left back, but obviously there's a lot of different options and ways we could go. Obviously, like I said before, tomorrow's a massive game for United. We need to win. It'll just cement our place in that top four and really give us confidence that we can push on. Obviously, with the game being away, it's a little bit more difficult. We have struggled with our away form this season. I'm hoping that we can start to turn that around, and it starts tomorrow. So, obviously, just fingers crossed for the result. Just before I go, actually, I forgot my score prediction. My score prediction for tomorrow is 2-1 to United, with Anthony to score the first goal and Weghorst to score the second. And I'm going to say Arsenal's goal scorer will be Leandro Trossard on debut, just because players normally seem to score on the debut, especially against us. So we'll have to see how that goes. But I am, even though we've not got Casemiro, I'm still confident that we can get the win. I've got my fingers and everything else crossed for it, and I'm hoping that a little patch there will be a good luck charm for us. So thanks for watching, guys. Obviously, do me a favour, if you're new to the channel, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Obviously, I'm still stuck on 41 subscribers. Getting up to that 50 will be a massive thing for me. Obviously, 41 subscribers is more than I thought I was ever going to get, so I really thank everyone who has subscribed. And like I said at the start of the video, check out our sponsors, Ball Tactics. They're putting out some really great stuff, so do me a favour, check them out. So that's it. Keep an eye out for my match reaction tomorrow. I'm hoping to be able to record it tomorrow night. It just depends on my kids and stuff. So yeah, keep a lookout for that, guys. Switch on that notification bell, obviously let you know when I'm putting content on. Cheers for watching. Peace.